Hi, my name is Alyssa Hirsch and this is my theory illustrated project for ART550. Art becomes shocking when it exhibits reality in a way never seen before. People get so used to how the way things are and become shocked or offended when they see something out of the ordinary that does not comfortably fit within their idea of acceptable. There can be many different reasons for this: morals, politics, religion, society, the list could go on. Ben Brantley, chief theater critic for the New York Times, comments on shocking art in an article titled Critics Forum: The Shocking Power of Great Art. He says, "Shock is inherent in art that makes us see or sense what we don't see or sense every day, which for me is a fair definition of the function of art. I think great art hurts, even as it gives the most pleasure." The initial or inherent shock value of art is dependent upon the viewer's experience and perception. As Friedrich Theodor Vischer defines beauty not as an object, but a particular form of perception, the level of shock one senses on first viewing a work of art will depend on their personal perception and interpretation of the piece. University of Michigan scholar Kendall L. Walton examines various aesthetic elements that help classify art into categories in the article titled Categories of Art, which was published in the Philosophical Review. In regards to art that confuses or shocks upon viewing, Walton explains, "If we are exposed frequently to works containing a certain kind of feature which is contrastandard for us, we originally adjust our categories to accommodate it, making it contrastandard for us no longer. In this case, the initial shock value wears off and the obscure elements of the work are accepted or at least tolerated." Walton also states, "What is important is not the rarity of a feature, but its connection with the classification of the work. Features contrastandard for us are perceived as being misfits in a category which the work strikes us as belonging to. As doing violence to such a category and being rare in a category is not the same thing as being a misfit in it." It is interesting and at times entertaining to study what made art so shocking throughout centuries. Charles Baudelaire states in his The Painter of Modern Life that each age has a deportment, a glance, and a smile of its own. Eventually, the style and methodologies of that time faded into a new one, a more modern one that shocks. An example of art that shocked the public and art critics alike in 1865 is Edward Manet's Olympia. This painting illustrates what Baudelaire would call present-day beauty. An image of real life, but in this case not something regularly seen nor largely morally accepted or even considered an image of beauty. Olympia is a working-class woman of the time, specifically a prostitute. The fact that a portrait of a working-class woman gazes from a frame into the society in which she lives, yet is looked down upon, creates a reaction of shock amongst her viewers. Critic T.J. Clark argues that Olympia played with identities the culture wished to keep still, preeminently those of the nude and the prostitute. Olympia is a picture of a nude body, but not the typical idealistic nude body portrayed in paintings past. She is not portrayed particularly beautiful, but rather ugly and unrealistic. She is described by critics as flat and cadaverous, unwashed and dirty. Culture may have wanted to keep the prostitute and the nude separate, but Manet brought them both into the salon. If Olympia were created in the 21st century, I doubt she would provoke such a stirring. This is in part due to how much the level of shock acceptance has changed over the centuries. What was once scandalous in the 19th century is no longer in the 21st. Again, because as time moves on, the expectations of art change, definitions of art change. It is in constant motion, therefore never generating the same reaction. Shock continues to rely upon originality and the element of surprise. In order for something to be shocking, it needs to be something new, and Manet's Olympia would probably not be considered new or original in the 21st century. Just as art continues to change, there will always be artists whose work provokes a startling first impression. Some modern and contemporary equivalents to Olympia would be, and mostly sticking to the female nude theme, are Marcel Duchamp's Nude Descending a Staircase No. 2 from 1913 and William de Koonin's Woman 1 from 1950. I will also discuss Damien Hirst and the physical impossibility of death in the mind of someone living from 1992. Duchamp's Nude Descending a Staircase No. 2 was exhibited in New York at the Armory Show. Previously shown in Europe with a warm reception, it was highly rejected in America. This painting is semi-abstract and was one of the first paintings containing cubism. Cubism was a new concept in the US, and what is new is often met with hesitation or outrage. William de Koonin's Woman 1 is shocking for several reasons. The image is of a woman with a mouth full of teeth and large black eyes that stare out at the viewer. Her body is set against a very colorful background of unmixed color. Her upper body exposes her large bosom while her lower body displays pink and orange legs set apart from each other. William Gompertz, in his book titled What Are You Looking At?, describes this work. He says, "She is a savage who has been painted wildly. Woman 1 is not a turn off, she is a turn away and run." De Kooning was criticized for creating the image of a woman in such a negative way and was accused of misogyny and disrespect. Though the reaction to Woman 1 was unexpected in de Kooning's intent, it still occurred because his study, his methodology, was innovative and therefore shocking. One last contemporary artist that continues to invoke such shocking reactions is English painter, sculptor, and installation artist Damien Hirst. Veering from the female nude theme for this presentation, Hirst is most known for his work exhibited in 1992 titled The Physical Impossibility of Death in the Mind of Someone Living. In this show, he created a large glass case containing a 14-foot shark soaking in formaldehyde. He is also widely known for his spot paintings, white canvases filled with evenly spaced colored dots, which Hirst declares are made to, quote, pin down the joy of color, end quote. What all of these works of art have in common, including Olympia, are the ability to awaken the mind through an astonishing first impression. Émile Zola describes this sense perfectly in his work celebrating Edouard Manet. He says, "Originality, that's what shocks. We're all more or less, without knowing it, creatures of habit who abstemiously follow the same beaten path to which we are accustomed. Every new path alarms us. We shy at unknown precipices and refuse to go forward. We always want to have the same horizon before us. We laugh at or are irritated by the things we don't understand. That is why we are quite happy to accept originality when it is watered down, but reject violently anything that upsets our preconceived ideas. As soon as someone with individuality appears on the scene, we become defiant and scared." Manet, Duchamp, de Kooning, and Durst, as well as many others, are shocking the world off the beaten path and helping them to move forward.